The blue planet filled the viewing screen of the human ship. Commander Jake Morrison looked at it with wide eyes. To him, it looked beautiful. To every other species in the galaxy, it looked like a death trap. The planet was called Kepler 442b. The Galactic Council had marked it as forbidden 300 years ago. The reason was simple. Too much water. Nearly the whole planet was covered in liquid. Only small islands existed here and there. No species wanted a planet like this, but humans were different. Jake stood on the bridge of the Earthship Endeavor. His crew of 45 people had traveled for 8 months to reach this place. They had come through something called fold space, which let ships jump across huge distances. Now they were finally here. "Sir, the scans are complete," said Amy Chen. She worked at the science station. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls. The planet is 92% ocean. There are groups of islands in 3 main areas. Lots of life in the water. The air is good for breathing. Gravity is almost the same as Earth. Jake smiled big. "Sounds perfect." Danny Price looked up from his seat. He was young and handled communications. "Commander, we have a message coming in. It's from the Galactic Council. They say we need to turn around right now." "Let me hear it," Jake said. The screen changed. Now it showed an alien called Ambassador Krell. He was a Vexian. His body was covered in hard plates like armor. The plates caught the light in strange ways. A computer turned his clicking sounds into English words. "Human ship, you must leave this area immediately. Kepler 442b is a forbidden zone. The planet is covered in liquid hydrogen oxide. Nothing can live there. Your crew will die if you try to land. Turn back now." Jake kept his face calm. "Ambassador, thank you for worrying about us. But humans know about water planets. Our homeworld Earth is 70% ocean too." The alien's mouth part spread wide. The computer said this meant shock. "You come from a drowning world. That cannot be true. How could any species build technology when they are trapped on tiny pieces of land with deadly liquid between them?" "We made boats," Jake said in a simple way. "And we learned to swim." The alien went quiet. The word swim had no meaning in the language most aliens used. Ambassador Krell seemed very confused. "Swim? What is this word?" Amy spoke up to help. "It means moving through water using our arms and legs. Humans can go into liquid water. We can hold our breath and move around in it for a long time." The silence from the alien went on and on. Danny checked to make sure the connection was still working. Finally, Ambassador Krell spoke again. The computer struggled to show what emotion he was feeling. "You go under the liquid on purpose? And you live?" "We don't just live," Jake said. He was enjoying this now. "We like it. We do it for fun. The Council must see proof of this. No known species can do such things. If this is true, you would be the first ones who can use water worlds. There are 47 such planets in Council space. All of them are considered worthless." Jake looked at Lisa Grant. She was his second in command. She had been listening quietly. She gave him a small nod that meant yes. "Ambassador, we can show you. In fact, we plan to build a research station on Kepler 442b in the next 3 days. You can send people to watch if you want." After the call ended, Lisa walked over to Jake's chair. "That went better than I thought. I was worried they might try to stop us. Now they're interested. Fear is turning into curiosity." Jake pulled up information about the planet. "Amy, tell me more about the surface. It looks good, sir." "The biggest group of islands has land about the size of Greenland. It's spread across 200 islands. The water is clean and full of oxygen. There's lots of life that we can probably eat. The temperature is warm, like the tropics. This is really a place where we can live." The galaxy ignored it just because most species can't handle water. "What about the ocean currents?" Lisa asked. "Strong, but not too bad. Any good ship can handle them. But the really interesting stuff is underwater." Amy pointed to spots on the map. "There are volcanic vents on the ocean floor, underwater mountains, and trenches that go down 12 kilometers. The variety of life down there is amazing." Jake felt excited. This was why humans had gone to the stars. Not to fight or conquer, but to explore, to find places where they could live that others had missed. "Danny, send a message to the colony ships waiting at the fold point. Tell them Kepler 442b is everything we hoped for. They can come." "Yes, sir." 2 days later, 3 more ships arrived. They carried 1,500 people who wanted to start a new life. They also brought equipment to build a permanent settlement. The Galactic Council kept their word. They sent watchers from 7 different alien species. None of them could believe what they were seeing. Jake stood on a beach. The water was warm and blue-green. It touched his boots gently. Behind him, people were putting up buildings very quickly. In front of him, the ocean went on forever. The alien watchers stayed far from the water's edge. They acted like the water might reach out and grab them. Only Ambassador Krell came close enough to talk to Jake. "Your people are not afraid," Krell said. "Some of them are standing in the liquid." "That's just shallow water, Ambassador. It's completely safe." Jake pointed to some children playing in the small waves. Their parents watched them nearby. "We teach our kids about water when they're very young. It's part of our way of life." "This is madness," Krell said quietly, but he sounded more interested than scared now. Lisa came over from where the buildings were going up. She held a tablet computer. "First phase is almost done. We have houses, power, and water cleaning systems. The marine biology team wants to start their first deep dive tomorrow." "Deep dive?" Krell's translator made a strange sound like it was working too hard. "Going underwater on purpose," Jake explained. "With breathing equipment, humans can explore for hours. Without equipment, the best of us can stay under for several minutes on one breath." Another alien made a sound like wind through broken pipes. "You go down into the liquid by choice?" "How deep?" "On Earth, the record is over 200 meters without any equipment," Lisa said. "With equipment, we've been to the bottom of our deepest ocean. Almost 11 kilometers down." The aliens talked among themselves in many different languages. Jake couldn't understand the words, but he could read their body language. They didn't believe it, but they were getting excited. "Commander Morrison," Krell said finally, "the Council has talked about your idea. If humans can really use water worlds, it opens up huge new areas for colonies. Areas that are useless now. We want to make a deal about settlement rights." Jake had expected this. "We can talk about it, Ambassador. But you need to understand something. Humans don't see oceans as empty space between islands. The water itself is important to us. The life in it matters. We won't just take the dry land and forget about the rest." "I understand. Your species sees things in a new way. This will lead to interesting changes." Krell paused. "I must ask, Commander, what is it like? Being in the water?" Jake smiled and started taking off his boots. "Let me show you something, Ambassador." He walked into the water until it reached his waist. Then he dove forward and disappeared under a small wave. He stayed underwater for 5 seconds while the aliens watched. Then he came back up, shaking water from his hair. He swam back to the beach using smooth, easy movements. "That is what it's like. It's freedom, Ambassador. It's like flying, but better." Krell's mouth parts moved, but no sound came out. Finally he spoke. "The galaxy has not understood your species, Commander Morrison. I think we are only starting to see what you can do." The sun began to set over the ocean of Kepler 442b. The sky turned orange and pink. Jake watched the first children who would grow up on this world playing in the waves. They splashed and laughed. They were as happy in the water as they were on land. The galaxy had 47 water worlds it thought were worthless. Jake knew that was about to change in a big way. 6 months had passed since humans first landed on Kepler 442b. The small research station had grown into something much bigger. What started with 1,500 people was now home to almost 10,000 humans. More arrived every week through the fold point. They called the main settlement Newport, though it looked nothing like any city on Earth. Newport existed in 3 dimensions. It wasn't just built on land. It went deep into the ocean, too. Captain Nicole Hayes stood inside Subsea Station 3. She watched through the thick windows as strange fish swam past. The station was 200 meters underwater. It was one of 12 underwater homes connected to the surface by special tunnels. More stations were being built every week. "Everything is holding strong," said Kyle Sanders. He was the chief engineer. He looked at the computer screens showing the station's health. "The pressure from the water is actually easier to handle than we thought. These waters are very calm at this depth." Nicole nodded. She couldn't stop watching the view. A huge creature floated by. It looked like a mix between a ray and a jellyfish. It was at least 10 meters wide. The science team had found over 3,000 different species in just the first month. They guessed that was only a tiny fraction of what lived in these oceans. "Any news from the council visitors?" she asked. "They're looking at the kelp farms on the surface. Ambassador Krell seems really interested in how we grow food underwater." The kelp farms were one of humanity's first big projects. They grew fast-growing plants underwater that could be used for food, fuel, and building materials. All of it grew beneath the waves in huge underwater gardens. Human swimmers and robots took care of them. Nicole's radio beeped. "Captain Hayes, something is happening. You need to come see this." She went to the elevator tube that would take her to the surface. The ride took 5 minutes. She passed through areas where the pressure slowly changed and the light got brighter. When she reached the main dock, she found it very busy, and there were aliens everywhere. Many aliens. Besides the usual council watchers, Newport now had visitors from a dozen species who had never cared about water worlds before. They walked around the docks looking amazed or scared. They watched humans load and unload cargo from submarines and ships like it was easy work. Commander Jake Morrison met her on the central platform. He was now the planetary governor, but still liked using his military title. "Nicole, good timing. The council wants us to show them something." "Show them what?" "What humans can really do in water." An hour later, Nicole was getting ready to dive. She was with 20 of Newport's best swimmers and divers. The room where they prepared had been opened so the council watchers could see. The aliens watched them get ready. They looked fascinated and nervous. Ambassador Krell walked over as Nicole checked her breathing equipment. "Captain Hayes, the council has read your reports about human water abilities. Some members don't believe you. They think you made things sound better than they are." Nicole smiled and put on her dive mask. "Then let's show them the truth, Ambassador." She led her team to the moon pool. This was a round opening in the floor that connected straight to the ocean below. Without stopping, she stepped off the platform and dropped 3 meters into the water. The rest of her team followed quickly. Through the windows, she could see the alien watchers pressing close. Their various arms and tentacles were moving wildly. Let them watch, she thought. Let them see what humans can do. The dive plan was simple but bold. Go down 300 meters to a reef they had mapped before. Look around and take notes. Then come back up. Total time underwater would be 90 minutes. To the watching aliens, it probably seemed like a death sentence. Nicole cleared the pressure in her ears and went deeper. Her team formed up around her in perfect order. This was where humanity belonged. In the three-dimensional freedom of the ocean, humans moved with a grace that surprised other species. No wings, no fins, just smart use of arms and legs and determined hearts. The reef appeared below them like an alien city. Tall formations rose up, covered in countless life forms that glowed with their own light. Nicole turned on her cameras and started recording. Swimming through passages between the reef structures, she saw movement. Big movement. Something large enough to make even an experienced diver pause. The creature that came out from the deeper water was as big as a bus. Its body was long like a snake. It was covered in overlapping plates that shimmered with rainbow colors. Multiple eyes looked at the human divers with clear intelligence. Nicole held still. She signaled her team to stay calm. This was definitely a predator, a hunter, but they had learned that most of the ocean life on Kepler 442b was curious rather than aggressive. Probably because nothing in this ocean had ever met creatures with tools that could invade their world. The serpent swam around them slowly. Nicole could tell it was studying them just as carefully as they studied it. After a long moment, it seemed to lose interest. It swam away into the blue depths. On the surface, the alien watchers had seen everything through the video feeds. When Nicole's team came back up 75 minutes later, right on time, they found chaos on the dock. Aliens were arguing in many languages. They pointed at the screens, at the water, at the humans themselves. Nicole pulled herself onto the platform and took off her mask. Mission successful. We collected all the data we needed. We also had first contact with a really big creature. Jake was grinning. "I think you broke their minds." Ambassador Krell came over. His translator was working hard to show what seemed to be many different emotions at once. "Captain Hayes, your team went down 300 meters. You spent over an hour in a place that would kill any council species in minutes. You met a massive predator and came back safe. This changes everything." "Ambassador, that was a normal dive for us. Next month we're planning to go down to 5,000 meters. "Impossible," a different alien said. "The pressure at that depth would crush any living thing." "Not if you do it right and come up slowly," Nicole explained. "Human bodies handle pressure changes very well. We evolved by diving for food in Earth's oceans. It's in our genes." Over the next few weeks, the news spread through the Galactic Council. Water worlds weren't worthless. They were valuable real estate that only humans could fully use. The money and power this represented was huge. 47 water worlds suddenly became humanity's greatest advantage. Jake found himself in meetings with council representatives almost every day. Species that had thought of humans as newcomers now wanted to be friends with Earth. They offered technology, trade deals, and partnerships in exchange for human help in developing water worlds. "We could ask for anything we want," Lisa said during a planning meeting. "They're desperate to access these resources." "We could," Jake agreed. "But let's be smart. We don't want to be exploiters. We want to be partners." The deal they made changed galactic politics. Humans would get rights to settle all council water worlds. They would develop these worlds not just for themselves but for everyone's benefit. Underwater mines would extract resources. Submarine factories would process materials. Humans would be the workforce for a completely new type of industry. In exchange, humanity got full council membership and access to technologies that would have taken centuries to develop on their own. Nicole stood on the beach at Newport, watching the sunset 6 months after that historic agreement. The settlement had grown into a real city. Towers reached up toward the sky. Tunnels reached down into the deep. Kepler 442b was home to 50,000 humans now and still growing. More importantly, it was the first of many. Across council space, human teams were checking out water worlds, planning settlements, getting ready to dive into oceans that had been untouched since the beginning of time. A small child ran past, chasing a wave back into the water. Her laughter was bright in the evening air. She had been born here, Nicole knew. She was part of the first generation of humans who would never know a world where you couldn't step outside and dive into the sea. Jake walked up beside her at the water's edge. "The colony ship for Kepler 186f leaves next week. They're calling it Atlantis Base," Nicole smiled. "Good name. We're building a civilization in the seas, something no species in the galaxy ever thought was possible." "They thought water worlds meant death," Jake said thoughtfully. "They were completely wrong." "No," Nicole agreed, watching the child splash in the waves. "Water worlds mean life. They mean freedom. They mean humanity finally found our place among the stars, in the depths between worlds, exactly where we belong." As darkness fell over Kepler 442b, the tiny organisms in the surf began to glow. Each wave became a cascade of living light. In the sky above, fold ships appeared, bringing more humans to their new water world home. And deep beneath the surface, in the warm darkness where no other species dared to go, human lights moved through the depths like swimming stars. The galaxy had given up on water worlds. But water worlds had been waiting for humanity all along.